Hi, on to Unit 26, this focusing on the decade of the 1960s in America. Quite a change, quite a contrast from the 1950s. First of all, looking at kind of an overview of the decade. While the general interpretation of the 50s was one of quiet, prosperous times, we did have Cold War conflict and McCarthyism and some other things. It wasn't all smooth sailing. But for the most part, kind of seen as a more traditional, prosperous, quiet time. The 1960s are anything but. They're considered probably the most turbulent decade of the 20th century. The Civil Rights Movement, which we talked a little bit about in its beginning in the 1950s with the Brown versus the Board of Education landmark ruling, which ended segregation and made desegregation the policy of the land, just kind of was further entrenched. We talked about in the last unit, the last presentation, how even though the court was interpreting the law in that civil rights was supposed to happen, it didn't mean that in reality it was going to happen. And there was a lot of resistance in the southern states in particular, to not abide by the ruling. And we had talked about in the 1950s that President Eisenhower had even resorted to using his commander-in-chief role to ensure that segregation wasn't occurring. Little Rock 9, for example, that we talked about last unit there. So, there was kind of movements in the direction of, the civil rights movement kind of being heated up. It definitely transitions into this decade, as we will see. In fact, joining Martin Luther King are other even more radical civil rights leaders in the 1960s, like Malcolm X and the Black Panther movement, that advocated violence, if necessary, to achieve the goal of true civil rights and true equality for people of color. We also have in the 1960s the Vietnam War escalating and transitioning from in the 50s being a conflict where we're sending money and advisors to troops on the ground, fighting against communism there, to eventually a controversial draft by the end of the 1960s. So quite a change in how that whole conflict was impacted here in this nation. In fact, the Vietnam War is a very divisive issue in the decade, in the 1960s, with Americans who are taking strong opinions on both sides of the ideology spectrum. Vietnam and civil rights would lead to mass protests around the nation. Besides Vietnam, the Cold War would also bring the United States and Soviet Union the closest it will ever come to a catastrophic nuclear war over issues with Cuba. So we'll look into some details with that. And sadly, this decade will also be known for a decade of major public figures being assassinated. So we'll look at some of those details also. Let's start off with the election in 1960. It's one of the most interesting in American history. Remember, we're coming off of 2 terms, for the most part, most of the 1950s of I Like Ike and President Eisenhower. And so it was an interesting matchup to see kind of where the nation would go. Remember, Eisenhower had interrupted a Democratic dominance started by FDR and then continued by Truman in the 30s and 40s. And it was, a Republican with Eisenhower in there in the 50s. So it was interesting to see, which way America would go in 1960. The Democrats, on the Republican side, first of all, let me say that the Republicans were hoping that, kind of more Eisenhower leadership would be desired by Americans. And so the Republicans turned to Eisenhower's vice president, Richard Nixon, as their hope in 1960. The Democrats, on the other hand, were hoping to return to the dominance of the 30s and 40s by offering a young, fresh, at least in the eyes of the American national public, John F. Kennedy, a senator from Massachusetts, also a member of a wealthy family, the Kennedys, and a former war hero to deliver the election for the Democrats. This close election, many believe, was eventually delivered to Kennedy, who becomes our president in 1960, thanks to a good showing on a television debate. Television, we kind of talked a little bit about last unit how the prosperity of Americans led to, a rise in consumerism, and that led to things like more automobiles being purchased, which led to things like suburban areas growing during the time period. Another part of that consumerism was that most American families by the end of the 1950s owned television, and what used to be programs that were dominated on the radio airwaves, more and more Americans were now watching television. So the first presidential debate was broadcast in 1960, and it had really a huge impact on the country. In fact, those people that listened to the debate on the radio felt that actually Nixon had won based on his arguments, but the power of television and the visuals that it created showed a Nixon that looked more sickly and older. He'd actually been ill, suffering from a bug during that time, and it really showed up on TV, versus Kennedy, who came across very young and vibrant. And in a close election, it became very significant. So Kennedy would win the election and become our nation's first Roman Catholic president. Kind of talked about this in previous units, how other Catholic candidates had run or tried to win office, but were never fully successful as president. And this ends with Kennedy. So we have the whole reservation we had talked about that Americans had in the past regarding allegiance to the Pope. Would a Catholic president, just listen to the Pope and his, political ideas over, what may or may not be in the best interest for the American public? So Kennedy, during the campaign, directly addresses the issue and reassures America that his top priority would be, in that question, would be America over the human leader, the Pope of his church. Nixon, even though he loses a very close election in 1960, would not disappear from national politics. In fact, we'll see him by the end of the decade and into the 1970s. We'll talk a lot about him in the next unit. So JFK is elected into office, and his program, like you would say, that FDR's was the New Deal. Teddy Roosevelt's was the Square Deal. Presidents tend to have, a catchy phrase that summarizes what they hope to bring to the nation in terms of policy. And it usually is an important slogan, at least during the campaign, where Americans can kind of identify with the candidate and identify with what they're hoping to accomplish. For JFK, it was New Frontier. So the New Frontier was really a suitable slogan for Kennedy, if you think about it, who was elected in some part for his youth and his fresh new approach to politics. It also hit upon the important historical role of the frontier. America was born, its DNA, in its DNA is really the search for a frontier, as we went from a East Coast nation to a sea to shining sea nation. It was very appropriate in that it kind of hit both on this new, fresh president and a traditional value that Americans hold dear in finding new frontiers. Domestically, the New Frontier included more kind of progressive types of approaches. like we saw really introduced heavily by FDR in the 1930s. The new frontier, it included, for example, expanded unemployment benefits, more federal aid to cities for transportation and housing, even a further expansion of Eisenhower's interstate highway system, which would provide infrastructure, important infrastructure for our growing car culture within our economy in the 1960s. And agricultural subsidies, so government support and help to finance and keep farmers in business. Furthermore, the new frontier referred to the space race, which Kennedy embraced, jumped right into. In fact, early on in the decade, he mentioned the goal of reaching the moon. And by the end of the decade, that would actually be achieved. We talked about in the last unit how the island nation of Cuba, had come under communist control by the end of the 1950s by its communist revolutionary leader, Fidel Castro. Cuba had a very close relationship pre-communism to the United States. It was just 90 miles. It's just located 90 miles off of the coast of Florida. So we had always had a keen interest in that. And so it was very heartbreaking, to our Cold War mentality at the time that communism was so close, and it was in a nation that we had been very close to for many years. So Kennedy really is a full participant in the Cold War. He does not back down to Khrushchev and the Soviets. Particularly when it came to Cuba, the nation, again, that's just 90 miles off our coast, he was very aggressive in kind of keeping the whole kind of idea of containment and the Truman Doctrine alive and well as it applied to the situation in Cuba. Now, in the late 1950s, as Kennedy begins his term, the Soviets are becoming an ally of Castro's Cuba, even transporting and or building the infrastructure needed for nuclear missile capabilities to the island. So Kennedy first gets involved directly with Cuba on a covert mission, a secret mission with Cuban insurgents who were trying to invade and overthrow Castro. So he kind of helps with some tactical support for those insurgents, and the mission goes terribly wrong. Called the Bay of Pigs, the mission was thwarted by the Cubans, and Kennedy's involvement becomes pretty much public knowledge globally and a big embarrassment to the young president. Then, after that, we come catastrophically close, very close to a catastrophic nuclear war in what was called the Cuban Missile Crisis. It's basically a 13-day confrontation that existed between the Kennedy-led America and the Khrushchev-led Soviet Union, which put us on the brink of nuclear war. Intelligence reports had indicated that the Soviets had helped to complete missile silos aimed at the United States. And the Soviets were shipping ballistic missiles to the island. So it became, as Commander-in-Chief, Kennedy became aware of the fact that not only did they have now the infrastructure to launch missiles at the U.S., but that nuclear warheads were possibly on the way on the oceans as he heard. Now, from the Soviet perspective, they were simply responding to a similar act by the Americans earlier in regards to America's ally Turkey, which is right next to the Soviet Union in Europe, in which we had given them, access to nuclear weapons, and we're now, had them in close proximity of their nation. As the nation watched this whole thing unfold on television, they were frantic and afraid and thought that nuclear war was coming. Eventually it didn't, thankfully. The situation was resolved when the Soviets retreated in the face of an American blockade of Cuba. But the impact that it had on our psychology was immense. It really felt like we were close to a nuclear war, and it made it, for the first time, a very real possibility.